Why data is the most boring and valuable online business. There is a category of online business that almost nobody talks about. It does not have a glamorous subreddit. It does not produce influencers. Nobody is selling a course about it on Instagram. And yet, the people who build these businesses quietly and consistently generate some of the highest profit margins you will find anywhere in the digital economy. The business is data, not artificial intelligence, not software, not SaaS in the traditional sense. Just data, collected, cleaned, organized, and sold. Today we are going to walk through exactly what this means, why it works, why it is so underrated, and how the economics of a data business differ from almost every other online business model you have heard of. This is not a motivational video. This is a structural analysis. Section 1. What is a data business? First, let's define the term precisely, because it gets confused with a lot of other things. A data business is a company whose primary product is structured information. Primary product, structured information. Not a platform, not a service, not software, though software is often used to deliver the product. The product itself is the data. Rows, records, lists, scores, signals, histories, indices, feeds. Examples exist across nearly every industry. Bloomberg, financial data. Costar, commercial real estate data. PitchBook, private market data. Dun & Bradstreet, business credit and firmographic data. Nielsen, audience and consumer behavior data. Messier, investment risk and index data. These are not obscure companies. Bloomberg's data division generates an estimated $3 billion in annual revenue. CoStar's market capitalization has exceeded $30 billion. MSCI trades at a price-to-earnings ratio that most software companies would envy. But the model is not limited to institutional giants. At the smaller end of the market, individual operators and small teams build data products in niche verticals, local business directories, niche contact databases, alternative investment data, shipping and logistics feeds, patent databases, agricultural pricing data, job market indices, and they sell access through subscriptions or API licenses to buyers who are willing to pay recurring monthly or annual fees because the alternative is building the data collection infrastructure themselves, which is expensive and slow. The defining characteristic. The defining characteristic of a data business is this. The product does not diminish when it is sold. You can sell the same data set to 1,000 customers, and the data set still exists in full. That is fundamentally different from physical goods, and it is even different from many service businesses where delivering the service consumes labor. This property is called non-rivalry. That single characteristic, non-rivalry, is the foundation of everything else we are going to discuss. Section 2, the economics. Let us talk about the unit economics, because this is where data businesses become genuinely interesting from a financial standpoint. Most online businesses that people build and discuss fall into one of three categories in terms of margin structure. Category 1, e-commerce. The first category is e-commerce. You buy a product, you sell a product. Your gross margin, after the cost of goods, is typically somewhere between 20 and 50%, depending on the category. That is before you pay for advertising, warehousing, customer service, and returns. Net margins in e-commerce are often in the low single digits. Category 2, service businesses. The second category is service businesses. Agencies, consulting, freelancing. Your gross margin looks excellent on paper, sometimes 80 or 90%, but the business scales with headcount. You want to grow revenue by 50%? You probably need to hire. The Category 3, software, SaaS. The third category is software, SaaS. Gross margins are high, often 80 to 90%, and the product scales without adding labor per unit. This is why SaaS became the most valued business model of the past 2 decades. But software is expensive to build. You need developers. You need ongoing maintenance, security, compliance, feature development. The competition is intense, and customer expectations are high. A well-structured data business competes favorably with all three categories. Gross margins 80 to 95%. Gross margins on data products routinely exceed 80% and often reach 90 to 95%, particularly for businesses that have automated their collection and cleaning pipelines. The product scales like software. One additional subscriber does not require proportional additional labor. And unlike software, the product does not require constant feature development to retain customers. If the data is accurate, comprehensive, and delivered reliably, customers stay. The value proposition is simple and stable. The temporal moat. There is also a structural moat that data businesses build over time that software companies struggle to replicate. When a company has been collecting data on a specific market or phenomenon for 5, 10, or 20 years, that historical depth becomes the moat. A competitor cannot buy their way into that position quickly. They would have to wait. The history cannot be reconstructed retroactively from scratch. This is called a temporal moat. And in data businesses, it compounds. Bloomberg's terminal has 50-plus years of financial data. You cannot build that overnight. You cannot replicate it with venture capital in 18 months. The time itself is the asset. Section 3. Why it is boring and why that matters. Here is where we address the title of this video honestly. Data businesses are boring. This is not a rhetorical device. It is a structural truth. The work of building a data business is not glamorous. It involves deciding what to collect. Building or procuring collection infrastructure, scrapers, crawlers, APIs, partnerships, manual processes. Cleaning the data, which means standardizing formats, removing duplicates, validating records, resolving inconsistencies, storing it, updating it, delivering it through a portal or an API, handling customer questions when a record looks wrong. None of that makes for an exciting YouTube thumbnail. There is no viral moment in data cleaning. There is no one weird trick for building a database that a competitor cannot copy for 5 years. This is precisely why the opportunity persists. The mechanisms of internet business discovery, YouTube, Twitter, podcasts, newsletters, are inherently biased toward interesting, visual, demonstrable things. Dropshipping has a community because you can show a product. Software has a community because you can do a screen share demo. Content creation has a community because the process is the product. Data products do not photograph well. They are spreadsheets. They are API documentation. They are CSV files. They are not interesting to look at. Information asymmetry. And because they are not interesting to talk about, the meta conversation about building them is thin. The competitive landscape in many data niches is therefore thinner than it should be, given the financial fundamentals. This is a classic information asymmetry. The people who understand the economics of data businesses are often inside those businesses, not publishing about them. The people publishing about online business are mostly not in data. The gap between public conversation and actual economic value is one of the most reliable signals of a legitimate long-term opportunity. Section 4. How a data business is actually built. Every successful data business starts with the same question. What does a specific type of buyer need to know? And is that information currently hard to get, expensive to compile, or not organized in a usable form? 3 parts to this question. That question has 3 parts, and all 3 matter. The buyer matters, because data without a buyer is just information. You need a professional, a company, or an institution that will pay a recurring fee to access this specific data because it helps them do their job better. The difficulty matters because if the information is easy to find for free, you cannot charge for it. The value of a data business is derived from the friction you remove. The organization matters because raw data is not a product. The same information that is freely available in scattered, unstructured form becomes a product when it is aggregated, normalized, validated, and made searchable or downloadable in a consistent format. The build process. Once you have identified the opportunity, the build process follows a repeatable structure. Step 1. Source identification. Step 1 is source identification. Where does the raw information exist? Public records, regulatory filings, court databases, job postings, property registries, corporate filings, web content, government statistics, sensor data, financial exchanges. Understanding the source landscape is a research task before it is a technical one. Step 2. Collection infrastructure. Step 2 is collection infrastructure. This ranges from simple to complex. At the simple end, you might have a spreadsheet and a manual update process. At the sophisticated end, you have automated scrapers, API integrations, change detection systems, and validation pipelines. Step 3. Data cleaning and enrichment. Step 3 is data cleaning and enrichment. Raw collected data almost never goes directly to customers. Records need to be matched, deduplicated, geocoded, classified, scored, or otherwise processed into a form that is useful rather than just accurate. Step 4. Delivery infrastructure. Step 4 is delivery infrastructure. This might be as simple as a downloadable CSV on a password-protected page, or as sophisticated as a real-time API with documentation, authentication, rate limiting, and a customer dashboard. Step 5. Pricing and packaging. Step 5 is pricing and packaging. Data businesses most commonly price by access tier, based on the number of records, the frequency of updates, the number of API calls, or the breadth of fields included. Annual subscriptions paid up front are the gold standard for cash flow. Step 6. Customer acquisition and retention. Step 6 is customer acquisition and retention. In B2B data markets, sales cycles are longer, but churn is also dramatically lower than in consumer software. A company that has integrated your data feed into their workflow does not cancel on a whim. The switching cost is high. That dynamic is the engine of durable recurring revenue. Section 5. Real examples at different scales. Let's look at how this model manifests at different scales. Institutional scale. At the institutional scale, you have Bloomberg, MSCI, Verisk, multi-billion-dollar businesses with hundreds of employees and decades of history. Instructive as proof of concept. Mid-market scale. At the mid-market scale, consider a company like Economies, which built a database of commercial real estate property data, or Bombora, which built a business intent data platform, or SimilarWeb, which collects and sells web traffic intelligence. These are businesses that were started by small teams with a specific insight about what a defined buyer needed to know. Small scale, solo operator. At the smallest scale, which is actually the most accessible and underappreciated, consider a solo operator who identifies a specific niche. Example, licensed contractor database, sold to insurance companies and general contractors. Example, probate records database, sold to estate attorneys and real estate investors. Example, restaurant health inspection data, sold to commercial real estate lenders. Example, patent filing database by technology category, sold to venture capital analysts. None of these require a technical background at the start. None require more than a few $1,000s in infrastructure to launch a minimum viable version. The 3 to 10 customers, $2,000 to $5,000 per year each, $20,000 to $50,000 annual recurring revenue, margins above 80%, under 10 hours maintenance per week. That is a quiet business. It is not a unicorn. It is not a story anyone tells at a dinner party, but it is a real asset that throws off real cash flow. Section 6. Risks and limitations. No financial analysis is complete without an honest accounting of risks. Data businesses have specific vulnerabilities worth understanding. Risk 1. Data quality risk. The first is data quality risk. Your entire business rests on the reliability and accuracy of your data. If records are wrong, outdated, or inconsistently formatted, customers will lose confidence quickly. Data quality is not a one-time project. It is an ongoing operational commitment. Risk 2. Source dependency risk. The second is source dependency risk. If your primary data source changes its terms of service, introduces technical barriers, or disappears, your collection pipeline is disrupted. Smart data businesses diversify their sources and, where possible, transition to direct partnerships or licensing arrangements as they grow. Risk 3. Legal and compliance risk. The third is legal and compliance risk. Data collection and resale involves legal complexity that varies by jurisdiction, data type, and buyer use case. Consumer data is subject to significant regulatory scrutiny. B2B data is generally less regulated, but the landscape is evolving. Legal counsel relevant to your specific data category is not optional if you are building a business of any scale. Risk 4. Commoditization risk. The fourth is commoditization risk. If the data you collect becomes freely available through open government data initiatives, through a dominant free platform entering your market, or through the data itself becoming obsolete, the business case erodes. The mitigation is depth, not breadth. Risk 5. Customer concentration risk. The fifth is customer concentration risk. Early-stage data businesses often have a small number of customers. If 1 or 2 customers represent 50% or more of revenue, losing either is a business-threatening event. Diversification of the customer base is an early priority. None of these risks are disqualifying. The point is to enter with clear eyes. Conclusion. Let's bring this together. Data businesses occupy an unusual position in the landscape of online business models. They combine the margin profile of software with the moat-building dynamics of proprietary information assets. They do not require constant feature development. They do not require inventory. They do not require charisma or a large audience. What data businesses require? They require patience, precision, and a genuine understanding of what a specific buyer needs to make better decisions. The reason they are undervalued in public conversation is the same reason they are financially attractive. They are not interesting to look at. The person building a database of commercial fishing permit holders and selling it to maritime insurance underwriters is not making content about it. They are updating their database. That quietness is the moat. If you are looking for a business model that rewards careful thinking over charisma, that builds value slowly and compounds it reliably, that does not require you to be an influencer or a developer or a venture-backed founder. Data is a serious candidate. The businesses that work quietly for a very long time. That is the kind of business worth understanding. If this kind of structural analysis is useful to you, this channel covers business models, capital allocation, and economic patterns with the same level of depth. No noise, no predictions, no hype, just the mechanics of how money actually moves. Subscribe if that is the kind of content you want more of. The best financial decisions are the slow ones.